The space station called Virella hung quietly near the edge of Sector 91. It was a neutral ground, floating between the borders of 7 powerful alien empires. Traders, smugglers, diplomats, and spies all walked its halls. There were no wars. Here, no weapons allowed. No violence permitted. That was the law. And above all other laws, one rule stood taller than the rest. Never harm a human. No one really talked about the rule anymore. It had been around for so long, most species treated it like a superstition, like some ancient warning passed down from a darker time, but the rule was still written on every docking bay wall in over 300 languages. Every new species that joined the galactic community had to agree to it before entering civilized space. Even the warlike Drezenak obeyed it. No one broke it, until today. He came in through Dock C9, tall 4 arms, yellow skin covered in spiked plates, a Sithari bounty hunter. His name was Creel, known in the outer systems for bringing down targets. Fast and messy, he didn't care about politics, he only cared about credits, and his target was a human, a diplomat named Roland Gray, who had just arrived for peace talks. Creel didn't wait. He followed Roland through the halls, past the merchant quarters, past the silent watch of station cameras. He raised his plasma rifle and fired 3 shots into the human's back. Roland hit the ground hard. His briefcase slid across the floor. People screamed. Blood spread in a pool. And then, silence. Creel turned to leave, ready to vanish before the local authorities arrived. But something strange happened. The lights flickered. The doors shut and locked. The air vents stopped humming. Gravity adjusted slightly, just enough to be noticed. Then a voice spoke. It wasn't the station AI. It wasn't the council. It was something older, deeper. A voice that came from every speaker in the walls, from every device in every pocket. Violation confirmed. Rule breach detected. Creel froze. So did everyone else. Across the station, screens lit up. All of them showed the same thing, an image of Earth. Silent watching. A red mark slowly burned across its surface like a warning flare. Rule 1: never harm a human. Enforcement begins. Panic broke out. Ships tried to undock. Engines failed. Communications were cut. Even private links. The station's power grid shut down sector by sector. Emergency lights turned red. Creel ran. He didn't get far. Metal doors sealed around him, trapping him in a corridor alone. Steam hissed from the walls. His gun vibrated in his hands, then melted into scrap. He screamed and dropped it. The lights above him pulsed slowly, like a heartbeat. Then they stopped. A final message appeared in front of him, floating in the air. 1 rule, 1 price. Then the lights went out. Security arrived later. Creel was gone. No blood. No body. No trace. Just his name carved into the floor like someone had burned it there with pure heat. After that, nothing was the same. That the Galactic Council sent out alerts. They tried to control the panic. It was an isolated incident, they said. Just a glitch. Local systems malfunctioned, but everyone knew better. The rule had been broken, and now something was awake. On the far side of the galaxy, inside a sealed bunker buried beneath the Martian surface, old machines powered on. Machines built centuries ago, forgotten even by most humans, but they still followed the code. Alert: human harm confirmed. Activate contingency. Missiles didn't launch, armies didn't move. Instead, signals were sent deep into the fabric of space. Silent, invisible, ancient human war programs began to unfold. Black boxes left on abandoned satellites clicked open. Old allies were pinged. Old enemies tagged. Across 10 sectors, strange things began to happen. A Kolari battleship found its AI frozen mid. When they restarted it, the only thing it said was, "You stood by." On planet Veska, a mining colony suddenly lost all power. When help arrived 3 hours later, the colony was gone, just a hole in the ground where it used to be. At the bottom of the hole, etched into the stone, were the words, 1 rule, 1 price. Every race remembered what the rule meant. It wasn't about protecting humans, it was about protecting everyone else from them. 1,000 years ago, the galaxy fought the human expansion. Back then, humans had been fast, wild, and unstoppable. Not because of their weapons, but because of what they became when provoked. They didn't conquer planets. They erased threats. They didn't forgive. They didn't rebuild what they destroyed. They left warning signs in the ashes. After the wars, the remaining races came together and agreed. Humans were too dangerous to fight. So a rule was made. Never harm a human, not one, not ever. And in return, Earth agreed to withdraw, to remain quiet, to sleep. But that deal came with a price, a hidden cost. Every major system had silent watchers. Human-designed A is hidden in civilian code. Every galactic gate had backdoors built in. Earth hadn't trusted the peace, so they buried traps. Silent ones, patient ones, patient ones. And now, those traps were waking up. The station Varela became a ghost ship. No one could enter, no one could leave. Every ship near it vanished or turned back. The council placed a warning beacon, do not approach, investigation ongoing. But the racers knew what it really meant. Stay away. Something is coming more. Diplomats were called in, messages were sent to Earth. No response. Humans said nothing, they didn't have to. The last species to harm a human directly had been the Zith Coalition. 800 years ago, they had captured a human scout ship and killed the crew. Earth responded by collapsing the Zith star. Not attacking, not invading, collapsing the star, turning it into a dead neutron core. No one had tried again since, until Creel. Now the Sithari. Homeworld saw riots. Their leaders vanished. Trade collapsed. No one wanted to deal with them. They were marked. A cursed species. And somewhere, out in the dark between stars, human agents moved. No sound, no light, no warning. On a backwater planet called Throsan 3, a transmission was picked up on a smuggler's private link. Only 2 words. Enforcement begins. Ships burned that night. No witnesses. Just wreckage. Just silence. The galaxy had forgotten the old fear. Forgotten why the rule existed. Forgotten the true cost of war with Earth. Now they were remembering. A scholar from the Vale Republic, one of the elder racers, uncovered an old human saying buried in a pre-space text file. It read, "We are not gods, we are not devils, we are what comes after both." When mercy is no longer an option, the scholar brought this finding to his council. They listened in silence. Then they ordered all Vale fleets to retreat from human territory. Other species followed. Treaties were rewritten. Trade lanes adjusted. Human sectors were marked in red, not as enemies, but as do not interfere. Still, no message came from Earth, no reply, no threats, no requests, just silence, a silence heavier than war, a silence that meant judgment, and somewhere, in the darkness of space, something watched. It had no name, no face, just code. Old, perfect, ruthless code, written not to protect Earth, but to protect balance. And when the rule is broken, it acts. Because there is only one rule, and now, the galaxy must pay the price. The patrol ship Velcrin 7 was one of the fastest scout vessels in the outer sectors. It belonged to the Galactic Security Force and was sent to investigate the Varela station. The Council wanted answers. They wanted control, but they were already too late. The ship left from the nearby system of Haldrick. There were 6 Sithari crew members, 4 Yellan techs, and a single Drosk captain named Vel. They were given one mission: dock with Varela, recover the security logs, and confirm if the human diplomat was really dead. They never came back. 30 hours later, the Velcrin 7 was found floating near a dying star, slowly turning in space. No movement, no signals, no response. Another ship was sent to check, an unmanned drone. What it recorded was not expected. The Velcrin 7 was fully intact. No battle damage, no signs of explosion or weapon impact. Its power core was still glowing faintly. But when the drone entered the ship, it found something chilling. All 11 crew members were missing, not dead, not burned, not even vaporized, just gone. Every seat was empty. Meals were still half-eaten. One datapad was still playing a hollow recording. There was no blood, no damage, just silence. And then the drone's sensors picked up something even stranger. One message was burned into the outer hull. The metal itself had been reshaped by extreme heat, molecular heat. No normal tool could do this. The message read, "One rule, one price." The Council tried to hide the incident. They said it was an accident, a malfunction. They erased the message from the official logs, but word spread. Whispers traveled through trade lanes and black markets. Someone had taken the Velcrin 7, someone who didn't leave bodies, someone who was sending a message. Other patrol ships refused to go near the station. No one would take assignments near Sector 91. Mercenary guilds quit without warning. Cargo, ships rerouted. A silence was forming across star charts. A silence shaped like Earth's shadow. In a hidden chamber far beneath Earth's surface, machines continued to wake. No alarms, no flashing lights, just rows of deep black screens, showing systems across the galaxy. Every screen tracked something: ships, systems, leaders, weapons, plans. One screen simply said, Sithari line marked. Another read, "First strike, test successful. Humans, we're not preparing for war." They were already fighting one, but no one could see them. The alien empires began to panic in secret. Emergency councils were formed, spies were sent, systems were scanned. Some leaders wanted to beg Earth for peace. Others wanted to prepare weapons, just in case. But the old races, the ones who remembered the first human expansions, spoke up. Don't beg the ocean to stop a wave. You build walls and pray they hold. A meeting was held inside the floating dome of Voska Prime. 12 major species attended, including the oldest, the Varnai, who lived over 3,000 years. Their elder, a creature of pure light named Yalandor, gave a single warning. You may think humans have changed. They have not. They simply waited. The room fell silent. Just then, an emergency transmission came through. A Kaleri science vessel near Sector 104 had found something. It wasn't wreckage. It was a message broadcast from deep space. An old Terran signal, the kind not used in over 900 years. It said, "Witness Phase 1, observe in silence." Attached to the signal was a full video recording, showing the Velcrin 7 entering dead space. The video came from multiple angles, like someone had been watching from every direction. It showed the ship spinning slowly in the dark. Then a shadow, not a ship, not a being, something darker. It wasn't visible. But it bent the light. It erased stars behind it. It passed over the Velcrin 7 like a cloud of nothingness. And then the crew was gone. The ship remained. But the life inside had been erased. Like chalk wiped from a board. The meeting ended in chaos. Fear now moved faster than light. And still, Earth said nothing. Human colonies remained quiet. No messages, no activity on official channels. But deep in the data streams of the galaxy, something was changing. Navigation charts began to glitch. Names of human territories were replaced with a single word: secured. Old satellites lit up again. Dead. Probes blinked. Drones started scanning abandoned human outposts. Sand found them no longer empty. Someone or something had returned to those places. The galaxy's great races began shutting their borders to human zones. But it didn't matter. The movement wasn't coming from Earth. It was coming from everywhere, because humans had never truly left. They just became quiet shadows. Now, those shadows were waking, and the one rule that held peace in place, for 1,000 years, it had been broken. So now came the price. On a frozen moon near the edge of the Antari Belt, a crew of pirates found an old Terran beacon. They hacked into it. It didn't speak. It didn't send messages. It simply opened, and a gas leaked out silent and invisible. 2 hours later, the pirate ship drifted into the sun. No one knew why. The only thing found later was the pirate log, with a single entry recorded before death. They're not attacking, they're hunting. More ships started to vanish. No wreckage, no distress signals. Just silence. And always the same final sign. One rule, one price. The council, now desperate, sent a peace envoy to Earth, a ship full of priests, scholars and translators. They arrived at the edge of Sol. System. And then they stopped. All their systems froze. Their translator implants shut down. One word was broadcast into their minds, not in sound, but in thought. And so they waited, floating in silence, for hours. Then their ship was gently pushed away. No force, no explosion, just a nudge, like a hand saying, "Not yet." The envoy returned with no injuries, but none of them spoke again, not one. Their minds were locked, eyes empty, like they had seen something they couldn't understand. One of them, days later, carved into a wall using his own blood. It said, "You didn't just break the rule, you broke the seal." That was when the galaxy truly began to fear. Because now it wasn't just revenge, it was something bigger, something deeper, something old. The humans had not sent a fleet, had not fired a weapon, but they had sent a message. And now every living species in the galaxy had to ask themselves, what happens when Earth is not angry, but disappointed? On the dark side of the moon, there was a door. No one had opened it in over 600 years, not since the Earth withdrew from the galactic stage. The door had no lights, no signs, no power source, just a small panel with the word "locked" written in old Terran code. Then, one day, it changed. The word disappeared. The panel blinked once, and the door opened far below the surface. Deep beneath layers of rock and steel, old machines began to wake. Their programs were older than most species in the galaxy. They didn't beep or blink. They moved slowly, carefully, as if time didn't matter. This was the Ghost Protocol, Earth's hidden defense. Not for use during war, not for protection, but for punishment. The first program activated was called VIGIL. Its only job was to listen. It had been recording the galaxy for centuries, watching transmissions, listening to voices, tracking languages. It knew every lie, every secret, every plan. Now it began to sort names. Creel, Velner, Council Leader Drax, Trade Guild, Prime Motherin, Pirate Captain Tylux, Ambassador Kresher, every name involved in the violation, every name that stood by and did nothing. Each was tagged. The second program was silence. It began shutting down small systems, power grids, fuel lines, starport comms, not all at once, slowly, quietly, so no one noticed. Yet cargo ships in neutral space lost nav systems, entire marketplaces went dark for 2 minutes, just long enough for everything to fall out of sync. The galaxy thought it was a glitch. It wasn't. On Mars, 3 black towers powered up. Inside them were beings not human, not AI, something in between. Copies of minds, warriors from the ancient human expansion, frozen in code, waiting for activation. They weren't awake yet, but they were close. The program that followed was ASH. It had only one purpose: track betrayal. Anyone who broke the rule, anyone who knew and said nothing, anyone who profited from human suffering. ASH tagged them, marked their DNA, placed their ships on silent watch lists, and once tagged, the galaxy would never find peace again. On a medical station near Zahn's Halo, a doctor looked out her window and saw a light in the sky, just a flash. The next morning, her station lost gravity and oxygen. She survived in an escape pod, but when the rescue crew found her, she had carved one sentence into her pod wall: "I should have spoken." The galaxy still didn't understand what was happening. They still thought Earth was planning something, but Earth wasn't planning. It was executing. The Ghost protocols were not revenge. They were justice, built not by war leaders, but by human philosophers, scientists, and historians. They believed that someday, someone would forget the cost of harming a human. So they made sure the galaxy would never forget again. On a dead Terran colony world named Theron 9, a Kaleri scout team landed to search for artifacts. They walked across a desert made of glass. In the center, they found a tower. On the tower was a message burned deep into the metal. It read, "We do not forgive, we do not forget, we remember, for all time." When the scout team tried to leave, they found their ship gone, just gone. Their emergency beacon worked, but when rescue arrived, the team was still there, kneeling on the ground, heads bowed, whispering the same words over and over: "They're awake, they're awake, they're awake." The Galactic Council finally held a secret vote. Some wanted to fight Earth, others wanted to kneel, a few wanted to run. The Varnai leader stood once again and said, "This is not a war, this is a judgment, and it has already begun." That night, a hidden base on planet Asmara exploded from the inside. It was a Sithari weapons facility, legal secret, protected by shields no one could penetrate. No ships were seen. No warnings were given. Just one line sent through there. Emergency broadcast. Your silence was heard. At the edge of explored space, near a black hole humans once called the Leviathan's Mouth, a relay beacon long thought dead began transmitting. It repeated one word: enforcement, then a second word: phase 2, then a sentence, spoken in every galactic language: "You broke the rule. Now we break the system." And systems began to break. Shipyards failed. Orbital defenses deactivated. AI assistants went silent. Markets collapsed in 6 major sectors. Not because of human weapons, because of human code. For hundreds of years, humans had quietly placed backup code in every system they helped build. Trade networks, jump gates, star maps. No one noticed. No one questioned. Now it all belonged to Earth. They didn't need to send soldiers. They had already won. On an old Terran cruiser floating in deep space, a transmission started broadcasting. Without source, if one human is harmed, we respond with silence. We respond with shadow. We respond with fire. We are not gods. We are not monsters. We are the line, and you crossed it. All across the galaxy, the phrase "one rule, one price" appeared in unexpected places: on food packs, on navigation displays, even in dreams reported by alien psychics. And yet, Earth remained silent. No war, no message from the Terran Council, no fleets, only the Ghost protocols, continuing their work, continuing their sentence, until the galaxy remembered why the rule was made, until they begged to follow it again. But by then, it might be too late, because now the humans had stopped watching, and started moving. The Galactic Council had never knelt before anyone, not in 1,000 years, but now, in their great silver chamber on Council Station Prime, leaders of over 50 alien species stood in silence. No one argued, no one raised their voice. Everyone felt the same thing. Fear. Reports kept coming. Patrol fleets gone, research outposts abandoned. Satellite feeds cut without warning. Whole sectors losing power slowly, one by one. And always, the same silent message afterward. One rule, one price. They didn't know who was behind it. No ships had been seen. No troops. No weapons. Just shadows, silence, and ruin. But they all knew the truth. Earth had not declared war because Earth didn't need to. It had only remembered. Council leader Drax of the Thollery tried to keep order. He slammed his clawed hand on the metal table. "We must send an envoy," he said. "A peace fleet. A formal apology." Ambassador Kresher of the Jern agreed. "We offer reparations, trade, territory, anything they want." But the Varney elder Yolandor shook its glowing head. "You still believe this is about politics. You still believe this is about things. It is not. It is about the rule. It was broken, and now the punishment is moving." Still, the council voted they would send their finest ships, not warships, diplomatic cruisers, marked with peace banners. They would go to Seoul, to Earth, to beg. The Peace Armada launched 2 days later. 12 massive ships, escorted by honor guards. They were unarmed, shields down, codes clear. The galaxy watched. The fleet crossed into the Terran boundary and reached Pluto's orbit. Nothing happened. They moved slowly toward Earth, passing Mars, now glowing with strange signals, old towers alive with unknown energy. Still, no resistance. Finally, the ships entered Earth orbit and then everything stopped. Time didn't freeze, but the ships did. Engines off, lights off, systems dead. No damage, no attack, just silence. All 12 ships hung in space like statues on board. The crews panicked. Their AI wouldn't respond. Their food generators shut down. Even gravity faded. One by one, the officers began to feel something deeper, like they were being watched, but not by machines, by something older, something buried. They tried to send messages. They failed. Then, finally, one voice spoke. Not through comms, not in sound, but in their minds. Just one word. Wait. The crews couldn't move, couldn't speak, could only wait. They drifted in orbit for 4 full hours. Then one ship, the Harmony of Jern, began to move again. Its engines came online. Its lights returned. It turned slowly and left orbit. The rest stayed frozen. Inside the Harmony, things were worse. The ship was damaged. Inside, walls were scorched. Systems were fused. And the crew, only one remained. Ambassador Kressia, were open but empty. Her voice was gone. She had torn the communications panel open with her own hands. Blood covered her arms. She had scratched something into the floor beneath her seat. For words, they just looked at us. She never spoke again. The ship returned to the council. The others never did. No message, no evidence, just empty ships, dead systems, and silence. The Galactic Council understood now. Earth didn't want war. They wanted understanding. They wanted memory. They wanted the rule, obeyed, not feared, not forgotten, not buried in treaties and bureaucracy. One rule: never harm a human. It wasn't protection, it was warning. The council fell into chaos. Old enemies blamed each other. Some races pulled back from the alliance. Others wanted to flee the galaxy altogether. But there was nowhere left to run because Earth wasn't chasing. Earth was already there. Across hundreds of planets, old Terran tech began to reactivate. Signal repeaters, long-dead probes, even museum relics started flashing. They weren't weapons. They were reminders. Every single one displayed the same message: the price is still due. On a distant moon where the Vrex once ran a human prison centuries ago, the ground cracked open. Black machines crawled out, still running orders from long-dead human commanders. They didn't speak. They didn't attack. They simply built a tower of glass and steel, pulsing with power. It finished in under an hour. No one knew what it did, but when a Vrex scout team approached it, they collapsed in terror before getting close. They described hearing ... voices. Not human, not alien, something between. They all whispered the same thing: we remember. The council sent ships to destroy the tower. They all vanished. The Varney elder spoke one last time at the council chamber. Humans are not seeking revenge, he said. They are seeking balance, and they are not angry. They are awake. Across the galaxy, leaders sent personal messages to Earth. Apologies, please. Promises. No reply came, just silence and more lights going out. The old scholars of the Veil found another Terran file buried in deep code from the first expansion. It was a recording of a human general, his face scarred, his eyes cold. He said, "We do not rage, we do not threaten, we calculate, we mark, we wait, and when the price is due, we collect." The video ended, and across the galaxy, the message was clear. Earth had not sent diplomats. because Earth had already sent judgment. The planet had no name. On the star charts, it was listed as Sector Z731X, marked as uninhabitable. No resources, no settlements, no reason to visit, but someone had changed the signal. A weak ping now echoed from the surface. Faint, old, human, no one knew who activated it. No one had ever mapped the world. No one dared go near it until now. A crew of 5 mercenaries, calling themselves the Black Dagger Syndicate, decided to take the risk. They needed credits. Their contracts had dried up ever since Earth's Ghost War began. Governments were pulling back. Pirates were vanishing. Markets were collapsing. But strange jobs still appeared in the blacknet. This one said, coordinates attached, 50,000 credits. Recover what you find. Return alive if you can. They laughed when they read it. They didn't laugh long. Their ship, Void Rat, dropped out of hyperspace near the dead planet. No satellites, no defense grid, just dust, shadows, and a blue-gray surface. But their scanners picked up energy, movement, structures. This place is supposed to be empty, said their pilot. Rax. I guess someone lied, replied the captain Drinavos, an ex-gunner with a steel jaw and a scar that ran across both eyes. They landed. The surface was cold. No atmosphere, no sound. Just an endless desert of fine black dust. But half buried in the rock were towers massive, ancient, cracked open like old bones. Human design pre-war, but unlike anything they had ever seen. Inside the first structure, they found weapons, not guns, not guns, not bombs. These were ... tools. Strange, metal rods, armor that moved on its own, helmets with no viewports, floating cubes that followed them like pets. This tech is worth millions, said the crew's engineer Stilix. No one even knows humans made things like this. In the second structure, they found something else. Not machines. Cells. Rows of cages. Some open, some sealed. Inside were the remains of strange beings, twisted, powerful, not human. And the worst part, none of them looked like prisoners. They looked like students. I don't think this was a lab, Silix whispered. I think this was a school. But no one had taught these things in a long time. In the center of the underground base they found a terminal. Old Terran code scrolled across the screen. The crew translated what they could. It said, Project Forge status dormant type phase 3 human combat integration purpose unknown authorized personnel only next activation. Upon rule breach they stared at the last line. Drenna's hands began to shake. They've already started, she said. That's when the lights came on. One by one the towers began to hum. The cages glowed. The ground shook slightly, as if something far below had just turned over in its sleep. Silix shouted, we have to leave. They ran. Outside, the ship's AI was offline, engines dead, systems frozen. Then they saw the message scratched into their ship's hull like it had been burned into the metal from inside. You saw that was enough. One of the crew tried to fire his blaster. It melted in his hand. Another tried to flee on foot. He fell to the ground screaming, holding his head. He mumbled something over and over. They were training. Gods. Only 2 of the 5 made hit off the surface. A rescue beacon triggered automatically. A deep space drone picked them up a week later. Both survivors were in shock, one blind, the other paralyzed from the waist down. Neither remembered how they escaped, but the data they recovered told the story. Earth had built the Forbidden Planet as a hidden training ground not for humans, but for something beyond human, not machines, not clones, hybrids, beings enhanced by ancient Terran science, part human, part something else. Born from war, raised in silence, waiting. And now, waking. The data logs were shared with the council. Their scientists studied it in silence. One log entry was DECRYPTED. It read, we do not need armies. We build examples. For every rule broken, one is released. The council panicked. Some wanted to bomb the planet. Others wanted to hide the discovery, but it was too late. Across 3 sectors, strange energy spikes began to appear. On old human outposts, abandoned satellites, deep space tombs. The galaxy had focused on Earth. But Earth was only one piece of the game. The real weapons had been buried. Now they were rising. The Varne Elder Landor, still watching from his quiet station, gave one final warning to the stars. You thought you knew what humans were. You were wrong. You saw only the surface. They have depths still unexplored, and now, you'll drown in them. The Calorans had always been careful. They never joined wars, never picked sides. They stayed neutral through every galactic conflict for over 3,000 years. They offered peace, shelter, and medical aid. Their homeworld, Calora Prime, was known as the last safe zone. Even during the first human expansion, they had stayed out, and when the one rule was written, never harm a human, the Calorans signed it first. They believed that would protect them forever. They were wrong. It started quietly. A single relay satellite near Calora Prime shut down. The engineers thought it was dust interference. The next day, 2 outposts along the outer moons went silent. Still, no alarm, no panic. Calorans didn't believe in fear, they trusted in reason. But then, their deep-orbit research station sent one last signal. It wasn't a distress call. It was a voice, recorded by a terrified technician. He whispered, "They're already inside. We never saw them coming." The line cut. The Caloran High Council activated emergency protocols for the first time in history. They scanned every system, locked down every port, called back all diplomatic vessels. Then, they waited and waited. No attack came, just silence. Until Calora Prime's central sun blinked, not visibly, not to the eye, but the light hitting their power collectors dimmed by exactly 1.7%, only for 1 minute. No natural event could explain it. It was a message. The Calorans knew that now. So did the rest of the galaxy. If even Calora, the most peaceful, most protected world, wasn't safe, then nowhere was. The next morning, the entire planet lost its global positioning system. Then their water purification plants, then the medical AI networks. The people began to panic. But not because of invasion, because they still couldn't see anything. No ships, no signs. Just systems failing. The last message sent from Calora Prime was a single sentence: "We stood by. We watched, now we're paying too." Then the planet went dark. Not destroyed, not conquered. Just gone. No life signs. No heat signatures. Every city turned cold, like the world had been emptied in a moment. A passing ship tried to scan the surface. Their readings came back blank. No error, no interference, just blank. It was as if Calora Prime had been unmade. The council panicked. They ordered emergency meetings across secure worlds. They discussed activating ancient fleets, deploying forbidden weapons, unleashing AI warlords locked away since the old times. But nothing moved fast enough, because by then, Earth didn't need weapons. The fear was doing the work for them. Every leader now realized the same truth. The one rule was not a law made by humans, that it was a line drawn by the galaxy, for its own survival, a warning, and when it was broken, Earth didn't act out of anger. They acted out of design. Everything was part of a system, a plan laid down long ago, a galactic trigger, a quiet machine that waited in the shadows, not to punish but to restore balance. Even those who had tried to help humans in the past, like the Calorans, were judged because helping wasn't enough. Silence, too, had a price. And now, all across space, other races who had once felt safe began to see the signs. Trade ships found strange markings burned into their hulls. Dead languages appeared in ship logs, old Terran phrases no AI could translate. Entire archives went missing from planetary database records related to Earth. Someone was wiping history clean, erasing knowledge. Changing memory. And then, one message was found. Not from a transmission, not from a person, but carved into the rock wall of a cave on a frozen moon. It had not been there the week before. Translated, it said, "You tried to hide behind neutrality, but your silence screamed louder than words." After that, even the remaining safe zones like the Veil homeworld and the floating academies of Antarai began evacuating. They didn't know what was coming, but they knew it was close. The most terrifying part, still, Earth said nothing. No threats, no declarations. No demands. Just silence and systems falling one by one. The Varnai elder, Yalandor, gathered his most trusted historians. They compared old files, secret scrolls, ancient memories passed from mind to mind. They found something, a human phrase, buried deep in a document from the end of the first expansion, a warning Earth gave when it agreed to peace. "We don't need to shout, we don't need to strike first. We are not the storm, we are the silence after. Break the rule, and the silence will find you." The galaxy had gone quiet, not peaceful, just scared. Every major empire had stopped expansion. War fleets returned to home systems, trade collapsed, colonies shut their gates, even pirates stopped moving. Everyone was waiting for the same thing, a message from Earth. It had been weeks since the breaking of the rule, weeks since the diplomat Roland Gray was killed, weeks of silence, punishment, and vanishing stars, and Earth had still said nothing. But then, without warning, it happened. A signal, not from a ship, Not from a person, from Earth itself. It didn't come through standard channels, it came through everything: navigation maps, holoscreens, comm implants, AI cores, across all frequencies, at once. And the signal carried one word, not a speech, a threat, just one word, understood, that was all. The message repeated 3 times, then it stopped. No sound followed, no ships launched, but something inside the galaxy broke. Leaders panicked, empires crumbled, old enemies turned on each other, trying to erase any proof that they had ever touched a human. Records were burned, stations self-destructed because everyone understood what that word meant. It was not a reply, it was a verdict. Earth had listened, watched, waited, and now they had decided. The price was confirmed, the punishment would continue on. A far colony moon in the Ixtari cluster, a council of planetary governors gathered to review the message. They were not involved in the violation. They had never touched human affairs. Still, they were afraid. One governor stood up and asked, "Should we respond?" An elder Ixtari replied, "You can't respond to gravity. You can't argue with a star collapsing. This isn't politics anymore. It's natural law." The message had only one purpose: to make sure the galaxy knew Earth was awake. And awake Earth was far worse than angry Earth. Back in the galactic core, the council met one final time. Half the seats were empty, the Colorans were gone, the Sithari had fallen into civil war. The Veil refused to leave their homeworld. Only the Varnai elder spoke. Earth gave us a rule, we broke it. Earth gave us silence, we ignored it. Now Earth has spoken. And they only needed one word. In the days that followed, more strange events occurred. Entire planetary defense systems shut down without cause. Council, databanks, wiped themselves clean. Old AI personalities began speaking in human voices, voices not programmed to exist. One AI on a trade hub whispered, "I remember the fire, I remember the stars, I remember what you did." And so does Earth. Even beings who had never seen a human now feared them. Children were told bedtime stories not of monsters, but of humans who watched from behind the stars. Merchants crossed out Earth routes on their star maps. Priests offered prayers to silence, not gods. And the galaxy, once full of war and noise, now whispered like a graveyard. On the edge of the galaxy, inside a ship wrecked centuries ago, a scout team found another message written by hand in old Terran ink. It read, "You were warned. You were given every chance. Now we will teach you the one thing you forgot, fear." But even as the galaxy panicked, Earth still said nothing else. Just one word, understood, and that word echoed longer than any weapon. No. One knew what Earth would do next. After weeks of silence, strange disappearances, collapsing systems, and the single terrifying word understood, the galaxy held its breath, but nothing else came. No war fleets, no death beams, no demands. The galaxy waited, and waited. And then the real punishment began. But it didn't look like a war, it looked like forgetting. Entire sectors started losing memories. Galactic historians opened vaults to find ancient texts gone, only blank pages. Museums discovered Terran artifacts erased from display cases. Security footage showed nothing missing, but the items were simply no longer there. A group of scholars on the planet Javlis had been writing a full history of human diplomacy for over a century. One morning, they awoke to find all their files gone, their minds empty. They didn't just lose data, they lost knowledge. They couldn't remember what they were writing. One of them fell to his knees, crying, saying, "I had a story in my head, but it's gone. It's like a piece of me was stolen." Across the galaxy, this happened again and again. People forgetting what humans looked like, forgetting where Earth was, forgetting what the one rule even was. But not everyone forgot. Those who had broken the rule, the guilty, remembered everything, and they saw what others could not. They saw Terran black ships in their dreams. They saw old ruins appear and vanish before their eyes. They saw the shadows moving when no one else could. Some began to scream in their sleep. Others simply stopped sleeping altogether. One former ambassador who had voted to block the investigation into the human diplomat's death walked into space without a suit. He left a final message behind, etched into the glass of his window. They forgave nothing, and they forgot nothing. The galaxy had expected war. Explosions. Blood. Fire. But humans had given something far worse. Erasure. If you hurt a human, you wouldn't die, you'd be unwritten. Your people wouldn't be destroyed, they'd be erased from relevance, ignored by the stars. Forgotten by time. Your greatest crimes buried, not forgiven, but removed from memory, so you'd never be remembered at all. And the only ones who would remember, those who watched it happen, those who helped it happen. They would carry the guilt, the nightmares, the whispers of shadows in their ears, forever. And one by one, the galaxy understood. That was the price. Not death, not destruction, but a future, where you no longer mattered. The Varney elder Yolando, now dying, spoke one last time to his remaining students. He said, "We thought humans wanted respect. We were wrong. They wanted truth. They wanted the rule obeyed. And when it wasn't, they became the truth we could not escape." He passed away with his eyes open, staring at a sky that no longer had Earth marked on any chart. And yet, somehow, everyone knew exactly where Earth still was, watching, waiting, remembering. Some say the humans had always known this day would come. That's why they prepared ghost protocols. That's why they planted silent machines across the stars. That's why they stayed quiet for centuries, not to be peaceful, but to give the galaxy a choice: obey the rule, or pay the price. And now, the price was paid. In silence, in shadows, in fear, but most of all, in being forgotten.